Alright, I've cleaned my board up. I've added my next batch of flour onto it. Next we're going to be using an egg and one egg yolk. Okay, so I'm going to remove the white from one of the eggs and put that together. I'm going to put it into a container that's bigger that I'm going to use for mixing. Then I'm going to take about a tablespoon and a half of tomato paste and add this into here. Alright, I'm also going to add my oil as well. About a teaspoon and a half. Salt onto the flour. And then we're just going to mix the egg yolks and the paste. This will help it incorporate better into the dough than if I was just going to add the paste, because the paste is really dry, very concentrated, and very thick. The egg yolks and the oil will help thin it out a bit. Okay. It's okay if there's pieces. Again, when you're mixing the dough together, the flour will help mix and combine everything together. Alright, so now I got a good mixture of egg and tomato paste. I'm going to pour this right into the center of my fountain. Alright, and then I'm just going to gently incorporate flour into it. Alright, and now I'm going to start what I did with the prior batch. So I'm going to get rid of the fork. And I'm going to start lifting and tossing with the flour. I use a little bit more extra flour than I did with the regular dough just because I have the extra tomato paste. And that's going to provide a lot more liquid to the flour mixture. But again, dependent on your humidity, what the environment feels like, that's how much your dough will take flour. I want to be very gentle when mixing this again, just like the prior batch when I'm starting out. And if you're going to be trying this dough, you're going to feel like, hey, this is not as tough to mix as your regular dough. That's because of all the extra liquid that you have available. Okay. So I'm going to start incorporating a little bit more flour than might be needed, because it feels like it's going to need a little bit more. Alright, now I think we're looking good. Let's scrape all this flour off the side. And again, just like the other dough, you're going to knead it for a few minutes. And as you're kneading it, you're going to realize, hey, this is going to start turning like an orange color, red-orange color, and that's what you're going to look for. Tomato pasta is a little bit more red than the normal off-white yellow pasta because of the tomato paste. And because I used farm fresh eggs, the extra darker yellow is going to make it more of an orange color, which is completely fine. That's normal. That's natural. What we don't want is a super red dough, like some of the store pastas. If you have some of the store pastas that are a tomato pasta and they're red, there's usually an added dye in there to make it that red. You don't normally get that from natural coloring of vegetables. Alright, so we're looking good. It's still cracking in a few places, so I'm just going to sit here and knead this by hand in the air. The gluten's starting to develop. It's becoming firmer and harder to mix now. And it's just very slightly tacky, which is what we want. You don't want a dry dough, and you don't want a wet dough. You want it to be slightly tacky. And there should be a few cracks here and there. If you're not getting any cracks, you might not have had enough flour incorporated into your liquid mixture. And again, I'm just going to flatten this into a disc because I think about right at the consistency I need it to be. A more oranger disc compared to the yellow disc from earlier. Alright, so you can't see it, but the dough from the yellow one looks really, really good, even though it's only been resting for about 5 minutes or less. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take this dough and we're going to put it into a plastic bag. Wrap in plastic wrap, however you want to keep it nice and fresh. Just keep the air off of it. Alright. And then half an hour, I'll come back to the dough and we will make pasta out of it. Alright, for our raviolis, I decided to make a ricotta mixture for the center. So what we're going to need an egg, ricotta cheese, ricotta, however you want to pronounce it. A mixture I've created, dried shallots, parsley, onion, garlic, chives. I think there was about it, but mix it all up, and I need about 2.5 tablespoons of that. And then, of course, salt and pepper. What we're going to do is I'm only going to be using about maybe roughly, I'm going to say about half a cup, maybe a little more than half a cup of ricotta cheese, the 1 egg. Remember to crack on a flat surface so that you're not shoving egg pieces into the yolk or into the whites. Your seasoning mixture. Salt, pepper, and you're just going to give it a good mix. The egg's going to act like a binder to basically keep everything homogenized and smooth when you're cooking your raviolis. You don't want a very loose, very wet mixture for your raviolis. You want a relatively almost semi-dry mixture, but you also want one that's going to stay together. And I think, I'm going to put a little more ricotta cheese in here. I want a little more firmer texture because I'm going to make relatively large raviolis, so I don't want it to be too loose. I do want a little firmness in it. So let's just go ahead and go with maybe a cup. of ricotta. Now there are other ways to make it more firm or thicker. You can add breadcrumbs to this. Just be aware that if you're going to use a fresh herb or a fresh green, like say spinach, you're going to have a lot more water content to overcome in the thickness of this. But I think I'm good, because what we're going to do is we're going to let this chill. And during the chilling process, the egg and the cheese should go ahead and set up really nice. But that cooling process will also allow the herbs to kind of marinate and meld, become much more flavorful, and basically bloom. The herbs I use are really nice. It's something I make here at home when I dehydrate. But you can really use anything you really want. So, next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this into a pastry bag, because it's easier to pipe. It's easier to pipe your filling than it would be to spoon your filling in. Okay. Set that aside. So, my nice ricotta cheese filling. Alright, we've come back to our pasta. This is our tomato pasta that we made. We're going to flatten it out, and these are going to become our raviolis. So I'm going to teach you that. Just like before, you're just going to be using this part to flatten it out and roll it out. I set it by hand. So we're going to start on set 7. We're going to make sure this is dusted in flour so that it goes well through the machine. And just like normal pasta, we're going to roll this out all the way down to setting number 3. But again, we're going to be doing those book folds and setting it through crisscross. Meaning not on the fold, we're going to set it through on the open spaces through the machine first. Okay, we're going to do that twice, because we want to make sure we have a nice uniform rectangle pasta that we're working with. That way we have minimal waste when we're making our raviolis. Okay. I'm going to send it through number 7 twice. Go down to number 6. If it starts feeling a little too tacky, we'll splash on some more flour there, because we don't want it to get stuck in the machine. And working with a pasta that has a puree like this one, we're definitely going to need that little bit of extra flour just to make sure. Also, I forgot to mention this in the last video, but when you're making a pasta with a puree like I did with the tomato paste, you can use any puree, butternut squash, carrots, spinach, to get the flavor or the look that you're looking for. Obviously, if you use spinach, it'll turn out green. If you use carrots, it'll turn out like a more orange color. Butternut squash, you might have a lighter texture on the orange, but it would still be a lot more orange than the normal yellowish pasta that we're dealing with. Okay. I'm on on setting 4 now. This is looking really nice. It feels really nice. Still looking good. And look at that. We're looking at nice dough here. Now we're going down to 3. It's a beautiful orange color. And there we go. Got some nice pasta going on here. Alright, so I'm going to cut this in half. Alright, and we're going to set the pasta machine aside here. Let's zoom in here. And now we're going to do a little bit of filling here. Okay, this is the ricotta cheese mixture that we made earlier. Alright. You guys don't see it, but I actually have a trash bin in the back here ready to go for all this stuff. Alright, so we want a good size on raviolis. I want about yay-ish big to be, so that'll help me. I can probably get 3 to 4 raviolis out of this. Okay. So now that I've got my ravioli mixture down, I'm going to take that other layer that I cut off, see over here, and we're just going to use a little bit of water to dab around. Okay, we can even use egg or whatnot, it'd be fine too. But I'm just going to lay that right over. I want to make sure we got enough pasta to cover all of the filling. Okay. Now the idea being is we want the pasta to have no air pockets, so that when we're doing this, we're actually molding around the filling and squeezing out all the air that's in there. Alright? And then we'll cut in between for the individual pastas. Okay. And then we're going to take a fork and we're just going to tamp and press the pasta sheets together. Without cutting the dough. Okay. And now I have a nice fluffy-ish ravioli. 2-3 minutes in boiling hot water. Once they float, they're done. You can set these aside and freeze them. Just make sure you flour all the sides here and make sure we're all good. Alright. If you think that you want to cut excess edges off, maybe you think you have too much pasta, feel free to clean up your edges. Square it off a bit, basically. Okay. And then you just set that aside and work on your other ones. Okay. Again, we're looking at 3 minutes total. As soon as they start floating in the water, they're ready to go. All right, I'm going to show you how to do this one more time. So again, I'm going to cut this apart. Okay, I don't have the special pasta roller that people usually have for this. I'm going to make sure that my filling's in the center. There's no air pockets pushing the air out. If it has an air pocket, you have the chance that it could burst and explode in your water. Okay, so again, tamping it down using your fork, not going all the way through, trying not to puncture the pasta in any way. And again, we're making sure that there's no air. Clean up your edges. Nice pasta ravioli. All right. If you're serving this as an entree, it's up to you how you want to do it. A lot of people, they do like little raviolis. All right. I prefer big, fluffy raviolis. All right, almost as large as your palm, honestly, if you're looking at it correctly here. All right. But I think this you get a lot more filling and you get a lot more hold for the sauce, honestly. So, and there's another one. All right, that's how we make our raviolis. So I hope you guys have a chance to make this and you guys really enjoy making your raviolis.